I was a little emotional during that press conference, but now that I'm back here, where I started, and Stephanie White is talking so highly of me, I'm like, this is where I need to be, this is where I belong, and I'm just so happy to be able to come back and handle some unfinished business. I recall Cheryl Swoop saying that the players in the Indiana Fever were like, y'all, why? That's not my point. There's a lot of other going on that players are like, this isn't where I want to be over there. Yeah, some new around it's a lot. I want to be here, where I want to be. Natasha Howard's decision to join the Indiana Fever and her fervent defense of Caitlin Clark and the team against all the haters made her look completely ridiculous. I'm also excited to flavor Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston, the player you know that I also say things to them on the court when I'm playing against them, but I'm happy I'm playing with them, not against them. Furthermore, we're not talking about just any player here. We're talking about a 3-time WNBA champion, former Defensive Player of the Year, and one of only a select few players in the league who averaged 18 points and 7 rebounds last season. Choose to team up with Caitlin Clark, and how is she responding in support of Clark and the Fever? Let's break it down, fans. You know I'm happy to be at Fever. You see me. You see me. Look, I'm back where I started. Remember back in April, when the haters couldn't wait to destroy Caitlin Clark? Cheryl Swoops led the charge with that famous quote that said no one would want to play with Clark in Indiana. Well, that narrative just got completely shattered, and the basketball world is still reeling from the impact. What kind of things do you feel? I'm not in the locker room. I know I'm talking about more social media. It's a turn. Well, hey, erase my point. For months, critics like Swoops promoted the notion that established WNBA stars would deliberately avoid the craze. They depicted veterans fleeing Indiana because they didn't want to deal with the Caitlin Clark circus. The media attention, the spotlight, and the packed arenas made it the go-to topic for anyone trying to minimize Clark's influence on the league. Would you consider each of those 3 seasons to be dominant seasons for yourself? No, I can't, bro. Cher Swoops is willing to lie about her own career before acknowledging Caitlin's dominance. Natasha Howard, a 3-time WNBA champion, former Defensive Player of the Year, and one of the most respected veterans in the league, didn't just sign with Indiana. Instead, she decided to return to the team that drafted her with the 5th overall pick in 2014, the same organization where she started her professional career 10 years ago. She is an incredible player and a tremendous person, and her accomplishments over the last 9 years have placed her among the best players in this league. I want to thank Natasha and her family for returning to us because it's special when a player returns to a place where they were recruited. At the end of the day, the way Indiana came at me with everything they promised me, and they kept the promise they sold me, and I took the bait for it. I'm happy to be back where I started and also to be back with Coach Soa and Kelly and also Amber as well, bringing her along. So it's just a blessing to be back where I started, and also for my family and friends who also see me back where I started, because Howard didn't hide her excitement about returning to Indiana during her press conference. The emotional weight of this homecoming was evident during Howard's signing when she was shown her original Fever jersey from 2014. It wasn't just a contract signing. It was a full circle moment that visibly moved Howard. I'm grateful to be back in Indiana, where I started, and it's just amazing. What makes this even more powerful is that Howard wasn't forced to Indiana or settled for the Fever as a last resort. She had plenty of options, and that's a good one right there. They'll be back like Number the original back at it. Could be a fantastic future with this revitalized Indiana team coach constantly on my ass about working hard and hustling. I took advantage of the minutes I played my rookie year, and am glad to be back next to her, playing with her and her coaching me. As Kelly Krakoff, the general manager of the Fever, revealed when Amber and I first spoke, the person sitting next to me is a high-end, integrity, high-class great teammate. Howard was their top target from day one, a player they strategically pursued to transform their roster. We have the talent, but first and foremost, we have the people to actually do it. I'm happy to be a part of this and bring leadership and the desire to show this young group what it takes to win a championship. I have 3. So my thing is to show them that you can't take days off from practice. You have to think that when you practice, that's how you play. My idea is to come in and show them that this is how you work hard. So when you work hard in the game, it won't be as difficult. My thing is simply bringing that championship mentality to the locker room. And to this team, the Fever's Amber Cox couldn't contain her excitement when she introduced Howard, noting that people say you should have a 1-page resume, but Natasha's resume is several pages long. And the list goes on and on and on. That's the caliber of player who just decided to play with Caitlin Clark in Indiana. Her accomplishments are extensive, including being a 3-time champion, 2-time All-Star Defensive Player of the Year, and Most Improved Player. However, what really makes this signing unique and completely destroys the Swoops L narrative are Howard's own strong words about why she returned from avoiding the fever. I'm just really honored and blessed to see a team that values me and wants my light. I believe that on the day I started this job, Kelly and I were on the phone and we had 2 things on our to-do list: bring back Natasha Howard and resign Kelsey Mitchell. We have been focused on this day and this moment ever since we began this process. And she even reflected on her growth since her first time with Indiana, saying, "I just feel like I've grown a lot as a person, and just as a player I feel like a lot of teams didn't really appreciate me as they should." This wasn't just a basketball decision. It was a personal one, and it was about finding a place where her contributions and talents would be valued. The person sitting next to me is a great teammate with high integrity. While critics were busy saying that no one wanted to play with Clark, these two were quietly forming what could become one of the most lethal fast break duos the WNBA has ever seen. Imagine this play happening every night. The players in this league love her, so welcoming her back and putting her on the floor with her guards, well, there's a reason she's called Flash. Howard didn't just find a team that appreciates her. She found the perfect basketball soulmate in Caitlin Clark. Let's examine what makes this combination so exceptional. Howard is a transition scoring machine. Her ability to sprint down the court at full speed, maintain body control, and finish at the rim is exactly what the doctor ordered for a passer with Clark's vision. Last season, Howard was in rarefied air as one of only a handful of players who averaged 18-plus points per game, while simultaneously pulling down 7 rebounds per contest. That kind of efficiency isn't just good, it's elite. Last season, with at least 25 games played, Natasha Howard was one of just 13 players to average 18 points per game. In her introductory press conference, Howard couldn't contain her excitement about this perfect basketball marriage, specifically saying, "I can't wait to run the floor and get those passes clear." She was one of 16 players to average 7 rebounds per game, and the list of players to average both 18 and 7 last year included elite Asia Wilson, Breanna Stewart, Napheesa Clyer, Brittany Griner, and yes, Natasha Howard. The team struggled last season with a roster that couldn't fully capitalize on Clark's otherworldly passing ability. We haven't yet discussed what Howard does best on defense, but she has already acknowledged how she sees her game meshing with Clark's. Howard was named Defensive Player of the Year in 2019 and has finished in the top 10 of the Defensive Player of the Year voting 3 times in her career. She has averaged at least 1 block and 1 steal per game in each of her last 7 seasons, and her versatility is what really makes her a weapon on defense. However, Howard brings so much more than just offensive firepower. The Fever finished near the bottom of the league defensively the previous season, and Howard's arrival immediately addresses that weakness. With a wingspan of almost 7 feet, she's a defensive nightmare for opponents who can guard multiple positions. Howard's 6'2" wingspan allows her to be disruptive defensively around the rim on opposing backs. In fact, she will start the 2025 season 25th all-time in blocks in WNBA history. When Howard slides over to help defend the rim, it gives perimeter defenders more confidence to pressure ball handlers. When she jumps a passing lane with those long arms, it creates transition opportunities in the opposite direction right into the hands of the game's premier outlet passer and Clark. Howard's defensive disruption is evident in the numbers.